Aging is an inevitable part of life, a journey that brings with it wisdom, nostalgia, and a deep longing for comfort in our later years. For many, the idea of moving into a nursing home seems like a logical and even necessary step, a place where care is readily available, meals are prepared, and medical assistance is just a call away. Families encourage this decision with promises of security and companionship, hoping their loved ones will be well cared for in a safe environment. But what if this seemingly well-intended decision turns out to be a regret? What if the comforts of assisted living come at the cost of something far more precious: independence, dignity, purpose, and a sense of belonging? In the following reflection, an 83-year-old shares their deeply personal experience of moving into a nursing home, only to realize that life there is not what they had imagined. They paint a stark and heartbreaking picture of what it truly means to leave behind the familiarity of home, the warmth of routine, and the sense of control over one's own life. Through 6 powerful revelations, they expose the hard truths that many fail to consider before making this life-changing decision. This is not just a cautionary tale, it's a wake-up call for anyone contemplating this path, whether for themselves or for a loved one. Because once you step into a nursing home, stepping out is far more complicated than you might think. Losing independence. When every aspect of life follows a set schedule. I used to have control over my life. Even in old age, I cherished the ability to make my own decisions about my daily routine. I could wake up whenever I wanted, make breakfast just the way I liked, and spend the morning tending to my garden or simply sitting by the window with a book. But the moment I stepped into the nursing home, I realized that I had lost the most precious thing: my independence. Here, everything follows a strict schedule. Breakfast is served at precisely 7 a.m, whether I'm hungry or not. Lunch and dinner are also fixed, with preset menus that I have no say in. Sometimes I crave a simple bowl of soup or a warm cup of tea in the evening, but if it's not part of the day's meal plan, I just have to go without. Even small decisions, when to go to bed, when to step outside, are no longer mine to make. If I want to take a walk in the fresh air, I must wait for a caregiver to accompany me, and they are often too busy. The frustration of wanting to go outside but having to wait for permission is overwhelming. I miss those early mornings when I could freely stroll around my home, watch the sunrise, and enjoy the crisp morning air. Here, my world is confined within 4 walls, dictated by a routine that is not my own. At first, I tried to resist, holding on to whatever freedom I had left, but over time I realized there was no point in fighting. I gradually adapted, learning to eat at the designated times, accepting my forced sleeping schedule, and complying with the rigid rules. But deep inside, I know I have lost a part of myself, the independence and freedom that once defined me. Feeling forgotten when the world moves on without you. When I first moved to the nursing home, I reassured myself that I still had my family. My children promised they would visit often, and my friends swore they would never forget me. And in the beginning, they did come. Those first few weeks were filled with warm hugs, laughter, and lively conversations that made me feel loved and remembered. But as time passed, those promises started to fade. The visits became less frequent. First, my children replaced in-person visits with phone calls. Then, even the calls became occasional. Plans to visit were postponed, then forgotten. I remember one particular time when my daughter promised to bring my grandchildren over for the weekend. I looked forward to it all week, but at the last minute she called to say that work had come up and they couldn't make it. Her apologies over the phone did little to ease the emptiness I felt inside. Holidays and special occasions used to be filled with family gatherings. Now I spend them watching the world outside my window, wondering if anyone remembers me. I see other elderly residents here, sitting in the common room, eyes fixed on the entrance, waiting for someone to walk through the door. But the door rarely opens for us. I don't blame my family. I understand they are busy with their own lives, but the feeling of being forgotten still hurts. I used to be the center of my family, the one my children and grandchildren relied on. Now, I am just a distant memory, someone they think of occasionally but no longer need in their everyday lives. Losing a sense of purpose. When small daily tasks are taken away. I once believed that moving into a nursing home would mean a well-deserved rest, no more worries about household chores or daily responsibilities. But I was wrong. When everything is done for you, life starts to feel empty. Before, I had little routines that gave my days meaning. Mornings began with brewing a cup of coffee, opening the window to let in fresh air, and watering my plants. I enjoyed cooking my own meals, tidying up my home, and doing small tasks to keep myself active. These simple things made me feel useful, like I still had a role in my own life. But at the nursing home, all of that is gone. Meals are brought to my table, my bed is made for me, and my clothes are washed and folded by someone else. There is nothing for me to do but sit and wait for time to pass. At first, I thought it was a relief not to have any responsibilities, but over time I realized I was becoming useless. I missed the satisfaction of completing even the smallest tasks, cooking a meal, arranging my bookshelf, or simply sweeping the floor. These small acts once gave me joy, but now they no longer exist. I see this in others too. I met a man named George who used to be a skilled carpenter. Back home, he always had a project to work on, but here he has nothing to build, nothing to create. I've watched as the light in his eyes faded, replaced by a dull emptiness. I know that feeling. I feel it too. Life is not just about surviving, it's about having a reason to wake up each day. But in the nursing home, finding that reason becomes difficult. When everything is decided for you, when there is nothing left to do, and when no one needs you anymore, the days blur together into a meaningless existence. I never thought I would fear having too much free time, but now I do. Declining health, when convenience becomes a curse. I used to be active, or at least as active as an elderly woman could be. At home, there were always things that kept me moving, watering my plants, sweeping the floor, reaching up to dust the shelves, or simply walking to the mailbox. These little movements, though seemingly insignificant, kept my body strong and my joints flexible. I was slow, yes, but I was still capable. But when I moved into the nursing home, everything changed. The environment was designed for convenience. Meals were delivered, rooms were cleaned for me, and even getting dressed or bathing could be assisted if I wanted. At first, it felt like a luxury, a relief from the small struggles of daily life. But I soon realized that with every task taken away, my body was losing its strength. Without the need to cook or clean, I stopped standing for long periods. Without the need to walk outside to tend to my garden, my legs grew weaker. My body, once accustomed to daily movement, started to deteriorate. I lost muscle, my balance worsened, and simple activities like getting out of bed or standing up from a chair became more difficult. I'd heard the phrase "use it or lose it" before, but I never truly understood it until I experienced it myself. What's worse is that this decline sneaks up on you. It happens slowly, almost imperceptibly, until one day you struggle to do something that once felt effortless, and by then it's too late. I used to be able to dress myself quickly, but now my hands shake when I try to button my blouse. I used to enjoy walking down the corridor, but now I rely on a walker. The more help I received, the more dependent I became, and the less I could do for myself. I often wonder, if I had stayed at home, forced to move around every day, would I still be this weak? Would I still feel this fragile? Loss of privacy and dignity, when even basic needs require permission. There is something deeply unsettling about needing to ask for permission to perform the most basic tasks, things I had done on my own for more than 80 years. In the nursing home, privacy is a luxury. Many of us share rooms, and though we try to be respectful, there is no true sense of personal space. Someone is always nearby, always watching, always listening. Conversations can never be fully private, and even simple moments of solitude are hard to come by. But the hardest part is losing control over personal routines. Bathing, for example, is no longer something I do whenever I please. There is a schedule, and I must wait for my turn. If I need assistance, I must ask. If I want to use the restroom in the middle of the night, I sometimes have to press a button and wait for someone to come help me. Can you imagine? Something as private as going to the bathroom is now a process involving others. There are regular check-ins from staff, which I know are done out of care and concern, but being checked on constantly, having my door opened without warning, being reminded to take my medicine or eat my meal, It makes me feel like a child rather than an adult. I understand the necessity of these routines, but that doesn't make it any easier to accept. Losing independence is one thing, but losing dignity is another. I miss the simple act of making my own choices, of having control over my body and my space. Here, even the smallest decisions, when to shower, when to sleep, when to sit in silence, are no longer truly mine to make. Leaving is harder than you think, when a temporary decision becomes permanent. When I first came to the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. Just for a little while, I thought. Just until I got stronger, just until I adjusted. I never imagined that leaving would be nearly impossible. At first, the idea of returning home seemed like a real possibility, but as time went on, the barriers to leaving grew larger and larger. My house had been sold. There was nowhere to return to. My body had weakened. I was no longer as independent as I had once been. My finances had been drained. Nursing home care is not cheap, and my savings were not infinite. And my family? They had settled into the routine of visiting me here rather than considering alternatives. I've met many others in the same situation. People who believed they would stay for a short time only to find themselves here indefinitely. The world outside moves on, but inside these walls, time feels frozen. Leaving now would mean starting over with nothing. No home, no strong body, no financial security. Some of us wonder, had we known how difficult it would be to leave, would we have made the decision to come here in the first place? For many, the answer is no. But by the time we realise this, it is already too late. Looking back, the regret is not in growing older, but in believing that a nursing home was the only solution. The promise of comfort and security masked the reality of losing independence, the slow erosion of dignity, and the painful realisation that life outside those walls continues without you. Does this mean that all nursing homes are bad? No. There are those who genuinely need the level of care these facilities provide. But for many, the transition is more than just a change of residence. It's a surrender of autonomy and identity, one that is difficult to reclaim once lost. If given the chance to choose again, our narrator would have fought harder to remain at home, to explore alternative options, and to maintain their sense of self for as long as possible. Their story is a call to action. Before making a permanent move, ask yourself, is this truly the best option, or is it simply the easiest? Life is made up of small freedoms, everyday decisions, and the comfort of familiarity. Once those are gone, they are missed more than anything else. The key takeaway? Hold onto your independence for as long as you can, because once it slips away, getting it back is harder than you ever imagined. If this reflection resonates with you, take the time to consider the choices you make for yourself or your loved ones. The future is uncertain, but one thing remains true. The value of dignity, purpose, and independence is worth preserving at all costs. Thanks for watching. We'd love to know what you learned today. Share it with everyone in the comments. And don't forget to tell us how you'll use this knowledge in your life. Your feedback really motivates us. If you found this video helpful, please support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing. See you in the next video.